Hey, I'm here to talk to you today about 5 words that changed my life. 5 words that made me say, I quit. See, I was making decent money as a post commander, site supervisor. I was in charge of everything, literally. I mean, hiring, scheduling, reporting, events, customer service, front facing client services, risk assessment, CCTV, emergency preparedness, mentoring, budgeting, everything. I had spent a good amount of time learning, taking notes, and constantly challenging myself to be better. And eventually I achieved that. And with one informal meeting and hearing those 5 words right in front of me, I knew it was time for me to quit and walk away. Those 5 words told me everything I needed to know about what to expect from the upcoming administration or the new owners of the new company. Now, this video is probably one of the hardest videos I've ever made, only in the sense that um, each time I make it, I delete it and put it aside and say, why bother? Um, and the events that I discuss are kind of personal. And I've been sitting on this for months. Just being worried about the repercussions, the posting it, and all that. It's really business, though. When it comes down to it, it's really business, and you'll see why in a moment. It's really nothing personal. But if you're watching this, that means that I got the balls, the guts to go ahead and post it and not delete it. So thank you for being here, and just hold on. So let's go back. Um, right after my divorce, I got an offer to work in an area that's called Little Saigon, and basically it means that you work in like the cultural diaspora of South Vietnamese, former refugees. I remember when I first walked into the center, this massive, massive cultural center, and I looked up at all of the signage in Vietnamese. I thought to myself, how the heck am I ever going to survive here? But I did survive. And fast forward a few years, I'm a supervisor. And then, becoming a supervisor, I literally skipped over 3 people to become a supervisor as part of my promotion. And then when that agency lost the contract and a new agency came in and the client wanted to keep the core group of people, again, I was offered a promotion and I skipped over 3 more people to become the person who's in charge of everything. I was working in a face to face relationship with the client, with the multi-millionaire owner, and 6 or 7 other client representatives. I was on the management committee. I got to, voice my opinion about things. I got to change some of the strategies and processes. It was dope, and I was good at it. Um, the company at the time was a little stubborn at first, but they came around and they started to trust the judgment of me and my core team, who had been there an average of like 6 or 7 years. As a matter of fact, during that time, the chief operating officer pulled me into some meetings so we could discuss raises for all of the teams. And so I literally was worked hand in hand with the C-level management team to negotiate raises with the client for my team 3 separate times. But there was a problem. The back office of the agency wasn't doing so well. and they were operating in this gray area, unbeknownst to a lot of the folks in direct contact with the client, and the client was very, very unhappy, and so she pulled the plug. And then we moved to another agency. And we, meaning me and the core team, we were afraid that we were going to go through the same stuff, the same BS of them not trusting our judgment and all these things. And so we voiced that to the client. And the client clearly advised them in public, in front of everybody, you better trust these guys. You need to do what they say to do. That's what they told the new owners of the new company. She said it out loud in front of multiple people. But they did the exact opposite. They didn't trust our judgment. They didn't take their cues from me and the team. They had other things in mind. Other things that are more arrogant and just probably not good business sense from a bunch of perspectives. So what that caused is a really volatile environment, which was dramatically different from what we were used to, what I had tried to create for me and my team. And when you work in a hostile work environment, you get very caught up in the day-to-day dynamics, because that hostility is not just, angriness or violence. It could be passive aggressiveness or inconsideration. Often it's childishness and condescending behavior. And you're there, you just want to do your job, but every day you have to bear the brunt of these knucklehead decisions when you've been through this process before. And when they make these decisions under the guise of it being a business decision, they're telling you that, yeah, we're new and you've been here for 7 years, but we probably know more than you because we're business owners and you are an employee. And they tried to label me an operations guy, as if I didn't know the difference between shit and shinola, as if I didn't know the business between running an operation and then keeping an eye on the financials so that operation can bring in money for the business. But I was trying to be a good little employee. I already had earmarked my 63rd birthday as my early retirement, framework, and I just had a few more years. I'd be there, no problem. I could do this. Besides, I had just gotten married, and my wife wasn't exactly excited about her job, which I had warned her about. But we'll talk about that in another video. But it had been a while since I went out on my own. It had been over 13 years. And with kids, 2 kids still in high school, a previous marriage, a new marriage, 2 dogs. Part of me wanted to just say, screw this, play it safe, stay under the radar, do your thing. It's no problem. But it wasn't pride, man. It's knowing your value, and it's about knowing your worth, and it's about knowing what you bring to an organization, not by your own admission, but by the things that people say about you, about how the client feels about you. Those things make a difference, and those things speak to the validity of your value. And so on this one particular occasion, we had some special maintenance happening at night. And, all the electricity for blocks around was going to be shut off. And, that created some security issues and blah, blah, blah. So I arranged for our guard, who's usually out different places. I arranged for him to stay in one place after the city lights went out, to stay there until they came back on. And so we got two bosses, boss number one, boss number two, thing one and thing two. And so thing two decides, oh, I'm going to stop by at 10 o'clock at night and talk to the overnight guard and give them some new instructions about some new procedures or processes that he's trying to put into place. And so quite naturally, after they spoke, she got on the phone and she called me. And the first thing I thought about was, well, who's paying for this? You know, if you're bringing in an extra person, who's paying for this? Because I didn't see a requisition from the client. And so when they get the bill, when she gets the bill, she's going to call me and say, hey, who's paying for this? Who ordered this? So I responded to thing one and thing two, and saying, hey, you know, if there's a change, you know, I would like to be informed of this change. I'm not aware of anything that the client ordered, so we have to keep in mind that um, she's going to dispute this charge if there is a charge. And in the future, please keep me informed of any of these last minute changes, particularly since I had warned them about this upcoming change to the schedule like weeks in advance. Um, so they brought somebody in, and it turned out to be somebody none of us liked because you know they are very unapproachable. They don't like working in a team, and that's what we have. We have a team, and they are the I don't know, the cuddle child of thing two. So you know, in his eyes, this person, this new guy, can do no wrong, and you know, there's a whole bunch of caveats with that. Um, but so when I sent the text message, he obviously didn't like it. His little feelings got hurt. He overreacted, sent me a text message. Oh no, he called me, so I took the phone, and he didn't like the fact that I had challenged his authority in plain view of multiple people who was in on that text message, that group text message, and his little feeble ego was hurt. You know, I tried to make a point that if he's going to change something, at least let me know so I'm not surprised, or tell the dispatch person the full story so that when she calls me for guidance to let me know what changes have happened, she can give me the full story, not try to make it up because you haven't given her all the information. These are all reasonable requests. So he tells me doesn't have to tell her anything, that it's his business. And long story short, I didn't accept his little temper tantrum, and I told him that if he couldn't see the need for direct, open communication between him and I, then any decision that he made was basically a shitty decision. And I hung up the phone. And no, I didn't get fired because I know my value, and my value transcends them. And you know, but you know, that being said, I never talked to any of my other bosses like that. I've never had this crazy amount of responsibility on my shoulder as I do now. So I didn't have to talk to my bosses in the past like that. I've always drawn a line in the sand and say, hey, yes, you're the boss. Yes, you signed you signed my check, but don't cross this line of being condescending or being an asshole to me, because I won't accept it. And it's tough being in the industry that I'm in, the security industry, because everybody sees us as these stereotypes, you know. And as I mentioned, I've got all of these responsibilities on my shoulder, but all people see when they see the uniforms, they see the bumbling mall cop or the lazy night watchman or the dude with his face in his phone that he's not paying attention to the surroundings that he's supposed to be protecting. And that's not what we do. And that's not what I tolerate at work. Um, I know that there are security guards like that. Yes, I do. They do exist. I know that because I have fired many of them. But my team and I, we're not like that. We're first responders. We're there to deter crime. We're there to handle slip and falls. We're there to handle car accidents. We're there to help with sick babies. We're there to help with sick elderly men and women, or men and women who are lost because they have dementia or Alzheimer's. We're here to watch organized criminals try to scope out our place. Lives are literally in our hands. And if I don't make the right call, someone can get hurt, and I don't take that responsibility lightly. But there's another aspect of security that no one talks about. It's the one that profoundly affected me and changed my perspective. It's really deep and sometimes emotional, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. I'm going to save that for another video. Right now, we're going to stay on target. So anyway, I remember raising my voice to tell him that he was full of crap. I remember getting so angry because he said, "Well, I'm just not going to help you anymore." He sounded like a petulant 6-year-old girl snatching her doll back and saying, "I'm not going to play with you anymore." I was like, "What the hell is this? Who am I talking to? Is this a business owner?" Anyway, the next day, the other boss, the partner, thing number one, calls me and my second in charge, assistant post commander, into a meeting. He lightly danced around the issue. That obviously, the thing number two had called him and probably complained and blah, blah, blah. And he tried to label it as a communication problem. And even if it was a communication problem, it wasn't my problem because I communicate, I over communicate just so there are no misunderstandings. And I learned that from a gentleman who had started his own business in public relations agency and grew it to a $10 million business that he then sold. So, I communicate. But he kept responding to all of my statements about what they'd done wrong since they took over the account and how they muddied the lines of communication, muddied the hierarchy, and how they created an atmosphere where some of the workers thought that they could come in and bypass the supervisors as long as they could call thing one and thing two and complain about us. And he kept saying, he said, you are in charge, but you are the operations guy. And then he said those 5 words. And that was, but this is my business. But this is my business. And I thought about that and I kept thinking, well, what does he mean by that? I mean, we all know that he's the business owner, but why does he keep repeating those words regardless of what I said? So I was defeated and I just said, okay. I just said, whatever. I didn't want to get into it anymore because I felt this other thing rising up in me and I didn't want to get into that. So I let it sink in for a few days and it kept swirling in my brain. I've been doing this for several years. The client told him to trust me and my team. So what was the problem? And then it dawned on me, I was his problem. I was in his way. He could never turn that account into the thing that he wanted to turn it into as long as I was in the way. And I was always going to be in the way because I had a next level relationship with the client. And that I was basically the bane of his existence. I was his arch enemy. And I decided he was right when he said those words, but this is my company. He was right. It is his company. And although I had run it for the past 6.5 years, it wasn't my company. So, right or wrong, he has a right to do with it as he wants. But I was not going to be a part of the shit show I believed it was going to become. And that's the reason why he never asked for my advice, my direction, my input, my perspective, because he already knew that I was diametrically opposed to his goal for the team. This, in his words, in his own words, made me realize that he felt he owned my time and he wanted my time to be directed at operations, not the business side of things. Fair enough. I accepted it because it is his business. And with a job, you're only as good as value they place on you. But you have the option of accepting that value or rejecting it. And I rejected it. Now I could look at the money and I could say, Angelo, don't lose the money, don't lose the freedom, don't lose the time. But man, money don't buy time. Money don't buy you health. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Money won't save you from arrogant fools. And it was so clear to me that my time there was coming to an end. I'm lucky. I've always been a part of some amazing teams. Teams that were special. The AP team in high school, Hillcrest High School. The intramural football team in high school. We won everything. My platoon, 1061 in Marine Corps boot camp in Paris Island. We won E-Beach, rifle range, and drill competition twice. The companies I've worked for always won the most awards and recognition. So it was bizarre and like I was being ungrateful wanting to walk away from this job that so many people would love to have. But what I realized is that this job was changing. And the money at this stage simply wasn't worth it. I felt like they were trying to push me out, basically. Me specifically, because I did not fit the norm of what I believe they envisioned for this position. And you can take that any which way you want, but you're probably not wrong. I had some strong ideas, but mainly the idea of fighting for something that had already been entrusted to me as a leader, fighting for it, seemed ludicrous. The client had already told him, trust this man. So what are you doing? But I am not a fan of toxic workplaces. I'm not a fan of workplace harassment. I know the difference between shit and shinola. I joined the Marine Corps long time ago because I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, something special. I need to be challenged by greatness around me so I can try to rise up. I need that. Otherwise, I get complacent and bored. And when I came to this company, this situation in Little Saigon, my predecessors had created this impossibly perfect, strict, rigid workplace environment that was conducive to internal promotions and internal recognition, and it had rules and regulations and policies and procedures, and everything was black and white, and that just was perfect to me, and that's why I stayed so long, and that's why I thrived in that environment. Jordan Peterson says pessimism and negative thinking or being risk adverse is natural. It's part of our protective instinct for survival. We become risk adverse when we've inflated our lifestyle so much that it's hard to go back when we're working 60 hours, 60, 80, 100 hours a week. But why? I love making money, but my reason for being, my why, is not tied to money. I'm most happy when I'm out marveling at nature, the clouds, the stars, the midnight sky, the mountains, the sky, moon, grass, space. I remember leaving New York and coming to California and driving home at night to Burbank and seeing these massive mountains like right at the edge of the highway, and my heart would start beating because I was like, this massive godly thing, God made this thing and it's right here towering above me, and I loved it. That's not a love of money. Freedom is my why. Empathy is my why. I want to be able to give others the help that I didn't get and ask for when I was younger or when I was trying to find myself. I want to be able to do that for other people. I genuinely want to help other people. I want to write. I want to write stories. Life is a system of stories. I want to build a business on these things that lets me go out and experience other things. I want to help young men find their inner voices, the sources of their strength. My why is that. I want to use this YouTube channel to help people take control of their lives in the best and simplest way possible. Money is great, and side hustles have their place, but there's still a lot you can do with small money, as my wife calls it. Quitting is the option that you have when you're free. When you have that option, it affords you more than just an attachment to a job or a workplace or the salary. You can find a better job, or you can create your own job. You can start a business. You can invest your money, simplify, minimize your life, build passive income so you can have more freedom. That's all kind of dope. But it's hard to do those things. That eyelash. It's hard to do those things when you're stuck and tied to something that you have no control over. But when you step back and look at it with a positive mindset and positive thinking, you suddenly have the ability to delay gratification now so that you can have the option to walk away from a bad job or take a break. Just take a break and travel or learn something. take a course online, or spend time with your kids, or spend time with your grandkids. It's easy to get caught up in the rat race and forget your why. Or for me, to forget those 5 words. But it's not your business. It's not my business. I'm an employee. And as long as I remain an employee, I am subject to the limitations and restrictions of another person. And quite frankly, at my age, I don't have the tolerance for it. So what's my plan? Well, I gave them 3 months notice. So I'm out of there at the end of September. That gives me time to get my shiznit together, to monetize this channel, to get back to vlogging, to lose weight, to get fit, to get the guns working again, to explore the job market, to explore the stock market, to start a publishing company, to build an Etsy store, master ChatGPT, launch a new website, and blow up this YouTube channel with your help. I'm learning to be more Sigma and less Alpha. I don't need to lead folks. I don't care about that. If I have to, I will. If I have to follow, I will. But I don't care about what people think about me at my age doing this. Because I always think there's going to be something better at the end of that path. When things get really rough, when things get really crazy, when things just seem like they're falling down around you, but you make it through, for a reason. You make it through because there's something at the other side of that thing that's going to lift you up that you never imagined you would get. And it's going to be right there in front of you. And all you have to do is grab it. So I'm learning to be more Sigma. I'm learning to explore the options of what path I should follow. I'm learning not to be embarrassed. I'm learning not to worry about what people are saying on social media when they read my status updates. And he's doing what? What is he? Why is he doing that? Right now, I am doing what most of the younger workers at my place of employment, what they should be doing. I'm getting outside training. I'm getting certifications. I'm testing the waters. I'm looking to monkey branch out of this and onto something cooler, fresher, doper, with more prestige and hopefully a whole lot more money, but definitely a whole lot more free time. I'm not staying at the same place because it's easy and that's all I know. I'm surrounded by people who stay at the same place because it's easy and that's all they know. And they are some smart people, but they don't trust their ability to work hard and make things happen. I do. And for everyone out there entertaining the idea that this will fail, I say, stop projecting. If you wouldn't do it, that's cool. Doesn't mean that someone else shouldn't. Doesn't mean that someone else couldn't. So I ask folks to hold on to their own insecurities, their own doubts, and only send me positive reinforcement, positive love, uplifting, motivation. In Jesus' name. I need to make this YouTube channel grow. I need subscribers and I need views. We started from the bottom, now we're here. So I need folks to subscribe, send some comments, send some love, send some encouragement, and go back and watch some of my other videos, particularly my videos on the immigration policy and the fiance visa and everything with the USCIS. But with this video, I've already succeeded because I conquered my fear of posting this video and sharing my story. So I'm coming away feeling like, yeah, I can pretty much conquer anything that's coming my way. So stop doubting yourself, Angelo. But don't lose sight of your why. Don't lose sight of your why. Hold on to that, and you can absolutely do it too. Doesn't matter what age you are. So if I said anything today that has helped you make a decision, has guided you, has steered you in the right way, please leave a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe, and recommend me to all your friends in your address book. Remember, we used to get those emails that said that, send this to everybody in your address book. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but please subscribe. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.